in response, Redux to yet another piece, Aramadori, in this case in The Guardian, but in general by many journalists who keep talking about what happened to Rudolph Giuliani. This in light of the disgrace of Giuliani's private correspondence expressing vicious anti-Semitism, uh, homophobic, misogynistic, racist, sentiments. Um, they keep saying, what happened to Giuliani? He used to be America's mayor. He was not America's mayor. He was New York's mayor. America's mayor was a Time magazine cover story. And it was the creation of the media. And it was a ridiculous, romantic, inaccurate, strangely, I don't know, perhaps sexual kind of a response by the country to the supposed trauma of the towers. But these things are invented by journalists who are lacking in any kind of a serious intellectual or historical perspective. And this is the story that they came up with. And Giuliani was a heroic figure. Giuliani was not America's mayor, and he was not a heroic figure, and he was certainly not a heroic figure ever to many of us in New York. To begin with, to talk about 9/11, let us remember that it was Giuliani who insisted that the whatever it was called, the crisis response unit, the major police response headquarters for another crisis like the 1993 attack on the World Trade Center, be situated directly across from the World Trade Center. Giuliani was for this. All of his professional police and firemen were against it. They thought it should be in Brooklyn, away from any possible symbolic physical attack, so that they coordinate response. But he insisted that it be placed directly across from the World Trade Center. When the World Trade Center was attacked and went down, the entire unit was destroyed. It was ineffective the entire morning, the entire day. It had to be evacuated immediately, and then it was destroyed in a fire. So that's a failure. Secondly, we were told, and I actually wept for firefighters who I thought heroically were going up, knowing that they were going up to die, to save people in the towers. It turns out that was not quite the case. What happened was that the firemen were issued once again, as they were in 93, so 8 years before, substandard radio equipment. And they did not receive what the police received, which were evacuation orders, evacuate immediately orders. So many firefighters were climbing up the stairs, not having received the evacuation orders. And when the tower collapsed, they went to their deaths because they didn't know to evacuate. And that was the case in the second tower as well. Giuliani was responsible for maintaining these things, and they were never upgraded. In the light of the report for what happened in 93, one of the important results of the report was to indicate that the police and firefighters needed more coordination and better radio equipment, which they never received, and that's why they died. Thirdly, does everyone have amnesia? Has everyone fallen over and hit their heads after the attacks? When the elections were being held, because the attack was on an election day and it was postponed, I think, 3 weeks, Giuliani made some sort of movements to try to stay as mayor, claiming somehow that the city needed him, and this was not a time to make a transition. So he did a poor job in that he didn't show confidence in democracy even then and wanted to stay on as mayor, sort of mirroring what Trump did in January 6th. And yet, once again, he was lionized at the time. And to the fact that he was a racist mayor, and to the fact that He created a strange sort of a quasi-fascist sense of importance. He had the city hall sort of remodeled to look like the outside of the White House. Where it used to be an open, democratic, uh, very pleasant square where you could cross the city hall. People could have a sandwich lunch on a bench and talk, and people could feed the birds. No, it was all cut off because for security reasons. This is before 9/11. It was just out of his head. It was just from his whim of self-importance. So Giuliani was never America's mayor, and he's not well remembered as New York's mayor. Can we all get this right? Take a note, folks.